Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, live show number 196. I am one of your hosts, Lauren Gray, where I hope to be joined by other co-hosts shortly, potentially Robert Cole, who left us high and dry for topics this week. He did not send anything out. He only gave us a ruh-roh. I feel, oh, wait, he's joining, so I get to abuse him in person. Oh, no, now he's leaving. I have no idea where he's going to show up. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining this week. We are being simulcast by HSMAI in APAC, which is the Asian Pacific region. We're also being simulcast with HSMAI in the European Union. And we will soon be, I hope, once Jason from HSMAI North America eventually answers our emails, that will be simulcast in North America as well, although we are being simulcast on a couple of the chapters every week as well, which is Las Vegas and Washington, D.C., and probably eventually we're going to go over and get into Memphis and up in Canada way, Vancouver. So we are going to be all over the place, though we're not already there. We are in 28 countries, and we're a little over 6,000 people weekly that listen to the show and participate, and we appreciate each and every one of you for doing that. Kind of interesting on some things this week, even though Robert hasn't given us any topics to discuss, there are a few things that are going on that should note our attention to this. One of which is, of course, Google's I/O 2019. They had their whole big rally as to all the new things that are coming out of Google. And I have 100 items from that, actually. And then, of course, last week was Facebook's F8, which is, for those who are aficionados into the geek world space, Facebook's version of their annual announcements of things that they're doing and so forth. One of which of the biggest ones is that they're focusing on groups. I want to tackle that one kind of first with this because groups has been kind of the redheaded stepchild of Facebook when it comes to what we use them for and how they're used. It was originally contrived that would be a more private, personal conversation associated with people that were only allowed into that conversation. And that still holds true. However, from a marketing perspective or from a usability, from a hospitality perspective, it's a bit of a challenge because it was never known really how best to use them. I mean, we're more interested from a marketing perspective as to how to portray ourselves into, the hotel or the restaurant, into the public space. And the way I usually mostly described the difference between Facebook pages, which is what most people or most businesses use, and what Facebook groups are like, is a little bit like front yard, backyard. And what I mean by that is, for those who own homes, you keep your front yard well manicured, well mowed. You keep up with the Joneses. You keep good landscaping. During holidays, you put out the appropriate decorations. So because you don't know who drives down your road. I mean, anybody can drive down a public road, so they can see your front yard at any given time. And so you keep up appearances, you keep up your business facade, so to speak, in the sense that you are a participant into your neighborhood. Your backyard is more of a private space, and that's how I consider Facebook groups. Facebook groups are a little bit by invitation. Those are the people that you let into your backyard, that you offer them a beer, plop in your pool, hang out, chat. You feel comfortable talking about a little bit more than the public facade of what your front of the house is. So if you were to look at how to treat Facebook groups in comparison to Facebook pages is your public persona, your front yard. You keep up austerities, you keep up imaging, you keep up your best profile, you keep your elevator pitches, what have you. Now in groups, you bring people in to engage with them on a more intimate level, a more personal level. And from a business perspective, that would mean your previous guests, people that have already experienced your product, your hotel, what have you. You try to create a relationship with them in which you invite them into a group, perhaps. Now you can segment groups into different categorizations. For instance, for those who did weddings and so forth, you can create groups for that. Keeping in mind that once a wedding is done, the interest in that categorization goes away. So it's a forever recurring group that you're building in when you're doing something like Smurf marketing for weddings and so forth, fraternal organizations and what have you, is because those cyclically go through their need periods and then they often may not be needed again. So you're constantly filling that space as to a good common area that when people are interested in talking with you about weddings, and you offer them a group experience, which is a little bit more direct, a little bit more intimate, a little bit more engaging than your typical page content, you can be a little bit more specific, a little bit more helpful. You can be a little bit more detailed because you've created that intimacy of relationship. You've invited them to your backyard, so to speak. And so too also goes with the idea of business groups for people that you segment out based on their types of travel. If you are a heavy business corporate traveling hotel, you might create a group that is related to being up to date with more direct information, like if one of your elevators is in service, or whether there's a large event going on in the city, and for your corporate travelers to be aware of the fact that they might have a difficulty finding an Uber getting to the hotel, or that your shuttle service will be tied down with other activities, or if density of your hotel will be high because of a large event that's going on, and that they need to be aware of that when they're traveling through. Those things can happen in a group environment a lot easier than your generalized discussions in your Facebook front page, so to speak, where you're talking more about the value proposition of your product and in a very public way compared to groups, which can be a more intimate dialogue. So why I bring all this up is Facebook has decided that they're really going to truly focus in on the value proposition of what groups represent. And I was thinking there was Robert had come because he tried to join us and then disappeared. It's different than what Facebook has decided that they're going to really try to focus on the value proposition of groups. And this is because, and this has been a discussion within the Facebook ranks for a while, Facebook has a limited availability of space for advertisement. They have a limited opportunity to be able to present advertisement in their environment for news feeds and what have you. Groups gives them a new realm of advertisement. So we can expect the fact that even though right now you can't advertise in your groups or at groups, we can expect that that's going to probably change with Facebook. They're going to start allowing us to segment out within the filtering process groups based on categorizations of interest, groups based on categorization of events, and allow us to kind of crack the space there and get into a little bit of advertising on the groups pages for those things. Now, other value propositions of using groups can be also the idea that you can segment them up based on interests, so that you're always doing a constant feed of dialogue for people that are interested in your destination space and area. This is valuable when it comes to being able to really target and filter people based on particular categorizations that you do with your CRM data already, your databases that you have for your own email campaigns and workflows. So it's very important that the groups can be segmented that way. The real key element to this when it comes to groups, however, is the idea that you have to maintain consistency. You can't just touch a group once in a while. You can't just decide every few months that you're going to throw in some topic. In order for groups to be value and effective, you have to have this perpetual dialogue in there. You have to be a perpetual moderator of the content. You have to be contributing to it on a regular basis, because you can filter who is in your group, and you should warrant that value proposition. We've often talked on the show about the value proposition of having a database where you can dialogue with people. Oh, I see that Robert is calling us on the phone, which is awesomely weird. Anyways, so I think Robert may be having trouble getting into the show. I'm not too certain. Anyways, so because of that, we with groups, you have to make sure that you're with your databases as well, that you create this perpetual engagement process to this, which kind of carries over. I know we're going to talk a little bit about Google in a bit, and one of the things about your CRM is what's called workflows. I often get a raised eyebrow when I bring up the term, because people often equate workflows with something entirely different than what I'm referring to them as. In your CRM system, with your database that you have, your previous guests or whatever you have them for, and even branded hotels, there is ways to extract your data. They're not easy. Your brand doesn't make it easy for you. It can be as straightforward as taking your arrivals list, pulling down the PDF, which is not a usable format, and then doing OCR, optical character recognition, to read the emails and the names off of that list and put it into a Excel file or a Google Sheets file that you then can use to create categorizations of data that says that these people stayed during a certain time period, or that you're aware of them within a certain group. It's a long process, and it's not an easy one. You have to invest time to it, but there are ways. Whoop, Robert is still trying to reach out to us. And I have no idea why he is trying to reach out to us. Well, I don't see him anywhere else. Robert, if you're listening, I have no idea what you're trying to call me for, but you can maybe send an email to him and I'll take a peek and see what's going on. But anyways, so with your CRM, he's asking if the only one in the room. Yes, we are. Interestingly, we are live. Oh, it says we're live. Robert has left the room. I don't see where Robert was in the room. Anyways, so going back to the CRM. CRM, the value proposition of CRM is the fact that it is your data, and you should segment it. Now, oftentimes, and unfortunately too often, hotels will go over and just do simple sends like all send newsletter. And they'll throw into the newsletter as many things as they can, hoping that something will strike a chord with somebody that receives it. Now, in the reality of the world, when we travel or we do anything that we sign up for newsletters and what have you with hotels and destinations, it's because we're planning on traveling there. Now, once we're done with that travel, the only way to stop that flow of dialogue is to literally unsubscribe from everything, because we keep sending stuff thinking that you're interested in it. And of course, doing all sends and throwing a bunch of stuff into the pile, hoping that something resonates, is that affirmational as to why people have to unsubscribe, because it's not targeted, it's not specific to any particular interest, it's just really a hodgepodge of things. So to that end, if you create what's called workflows, and what I mean by that is that you take out your database and say, for instance, you start with an all send newsletter and you send it to your database, give it 3 days and you create what's called logic strings. Did they open it or didn't they open it? If they open it, did they book or not book? Robert's trying to join the room again. I think he's almost here. At least he's partially showing up. With that logic string, hey, Mr. Robert. Oh, no audio. No audio.
Oh,
there you are.
Okay. Oh, were you on the air earlier?
Yeah.
For 12 minutes?
Yeah.
I was on for 10 minutes and 12 seconds.
I saw you pop on and nothing happened.
No, and it said live, and I was talking, basically going, hey, I'm going to call Lauren. I don't see anything streaming, and I could see you in the corner. I wasn't a presenter. I couldn't do anything.
That's bizarre, because what it was is, I came on live in normal scheduled time. You popped down like you're coming into the room, and then it just went away. And then I was like, okay, that's where the...
Oh, no, I was there. It said on air with the thing running, the whole deal. But I don't see anything on YouTube, and I don't see anything on Facebook.
YouTube, no, there's no restream on Facebook right now. It's still, because I was by myself, it's like I couldn't go over and switch it on. But YouTube, it starts out private, and I have to switch it. And since I was by myself, I did not have that opportunity. But now that you are here, I get to go.
Can you start it quick? Can you switch it live now, or is it going to give you the last 10 or 12 minutes?
No, YouTube is actually live, but it starts out private, so I have to go in.
But when you switch it, so
it'll just turn on live at that
public,
point.
It starts at that point.
Yeah, it starts at that point.
Nice feature.
Yeah, well, it's one of those unreversible things of Webinar Jam. But I'm a little surprised because I saw where you went to join, and then it didn't. You didn't appear.
I did appear, and I was live with the full stream without you, and it was like turn on the other person's webcam, and I couldn't because I wasn't a room administrator, right? So
That's
it was
bizarre.
like you were on, you let me on, and then so.
Well, I'll link on Facebook real quick so we can get that started. And then now that you're here, although without a list in hand, might I say, kind sir?
No, I didn't. I was busy. Although I do have a great video. Can I do a shared screen video? Well, do you think
actually,
that
you
would
should
work?
be able to. You should be able to. What is the video? It's not one of those pornographic ones, is it?
Oh, we don't do those on this show?
Never mind. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. We're fine.
No. It is called, I don't know if you've seen this video. It's called Every Hotel Ever. by Tripp and Tyler. You probably never seen it.
I don't think I have.
Okay, so let's see if I can do a full screen of this, and then we'll see if I can get. Whoops, I can't go to full screen without it. This is my personal opinion, a brilliant video. So let's see if I can turn on screen sharing here. Oh, here we go. Oh, okay, hang on. Let's see if I can get this into a separate window. Let me put this in a different browser, and then we'll see if I can share it that way. Just a moment. And then, yeah, it's these guys, at least as far as I can tell, have pretty much nailed the hotel experience of every hotel ever. And then for the rest of the content for the show, I can tell you all about what was being covered at the Hotel Beds conference that I spoke at, which was quite interesting.
I was diving into CRM Workflows and Facebook F8 and Google IO19.
Wow.
Small task.
That's heavy duty. That's much heavier duty conferences than I can. Oh, we'll see if I can even on my computer at the same
You're doing screen share? Because you're frozen, but I don't see a screen share yet. You there? Oh, you froze, and now there's no audio. Mr. Robert? Robert? I think we lost Robert. While we wait for Robert to come back, I'll finish my conclusion of workflows. Very quickly, just based on the idea of what I was talking about with emails, once you send an email out and you determine whether they opened it or didn't open it, if they did open it and booked, you leave them alone. If they opened it and didn't book, then that creates another logic string. If they didn't open it, then 3 days later, whoops, we lost Robert. Then 3 days later, if you send out the same email with a different subject line, and also same string, did they open it or didn't they open it? If they opened it, did they book? If they didn't open it, then you wait 4 days and you send them a different email, different subject line, and different content, in the hopes that they'll engage with something different from that. Now, going back up to the funnel at the top, when the initial email was sent out, if they opened it and didn't book, then you would send out a follow-up email, different topic, as something to send, different subject line, different content. These workflows create an incubation relationship. Oh, Robert looks like he's trying to come back, so that you can create a dialogue. Now, in the email, you also can segment what they actually clicked on. If you were offering, say, for instance, a military rate versus an ARP rate versus a specialty offer for events and what have you, they create databases of engagement. Your CRM system can isolate those people that click on those particular links, and you can segment them into different data batches of people that go and say, okay, they clicked on the military link. So you know that if you're going to send out them another military offer, that you can do so with this database. So you're creating segmentation of data based on the engagement of the newsletter. You're creating a repetitive incubation with them. Now, one of the other strong suits of people that, oh, there's Robert again. It didn't work. Nope, no audio. Nope, no audio. Nope, no audio.
Sorry, I think the bandwidth was killing me. Oh, and now I have a nice echo.
Oh, no, it doesn't hear an echo on this side, but if you have an echo,
I hear an echo on my side.
Huh?
Yeah, on your side where it sounds like it's coming off of your computer producing.
That's entirely possible. I've turned on my audio. Did it get any better?
Let me check. I hear no more echo.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Yes, yeah. I'm speaking.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yep. No echo.
Yay! Oh, now your camera's gone. There you are.
Sorry about that.
So,
yep. Oh.
I just finished my conversation about workflows and CRM database use.
You were finished. I'm going to be not on camera for a second because I have to. Somebody is pounding at my door. Hang on just a second. It's a FedEx or not a FedEx, an Amazon delivery.
It's
I'm
an
sure.
Amazon delivery. So anyway, when it comes to using CRMs and workflows, it's important to realize that your segmentation of data and the use of that segmentation is probably the most valuable asset that you have, because at the end of the day, everybody else is another sandbox. Facebook, whatever you use it for, is in Facebook sandbox. They can give you permissions. They can shut off accesses. Google, same thing. Your PPC, your databases that you're using with Google, it's in their sandbox. So your CRM and your engagement directly with your guest is probably your strongest and single biggest asset that you can control when it comes to your engagement with your previous guests and future guests.
What a lovely wrap up you had. Okay, let me try to share my screen again, and we'll see if this works. Okay.
Do not try this at home, ladies and gentlemen. We are trained professionals.
I would not go that far. Let's see. Uh-oh, we have the infinite realm of
infinity screen and beyond.
Okay, now, what are you seeing? Are you seeing a full screen now?
Yeah, I see a full screen.
Every hotel ever. Well, let's see if this even plays. We'll try it.
Hey, I know that hotel. No audio, though.
There's no audio?
No.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I could hear it perfectly.
Put the microphone on the speaker.
No. I can try to do that. Hang on. How can I do that? Well, I'm hearing it through my headset.
Oh.
See, so there is.
Yeah, we're not hearing it on this side.
Really? That's good. Webinar Jam. Why would you want to have the audio actually do that? I don't know. You think they're... Oh. Hang on. Can you see select the language to get started?
Yeah.
Maybe I can... hang on. We can do something. For your videos, if you never did subtitles, you can have auto-generate. Okay, we've got the volume all the way up. Let's try. You don't hear anything when that's going, right?
Not yet.
Nothing? Okay, let me try it. What if I unplug my headset?
Can't hear you anymore, that's for sure. Nothing. Nope, no audio. Edward is joining the room. No audio, Robert. You included. And there's Ed. Hey, Mr. Ed.
Hey, gentlemen. How are you?
Rob was trying to share a screen, but there was no audio. He had a video.
He still has no audio.
He still has no audio.
His mouth is moving.
Nope.
But as usual, I hear nothing.
What is that? Pink Floyd, lips move, but I can't hear what you're saying.
Sorry for my tardiness. My 10 a.m., which was meant to be a 45-minute call, just wrapped up.
That's okay. I was exonerating the values of CRM. I was touching F8 a little bit, and I was going to touch into a little Google IO19. Just some fun little techno things that came out of things. And Robert jumped in and said he had a wonderful dialogue about his recent conference he was just at, but we can't hear him.
Robert was at a conference?
He was speaking at a conference, and he's not hearing. No.
Here, Robert, move your mouth, and I'll tell people what you're saying.
That's dangerous.
Well, you see, dating back to when I started at Cornell in 1919,
before
the hotel business was far easier.
Oh my God, that would have been just fun to keep on going. I wish Robert stayed.
I know. Why did he give up on that? Because he knew where it was going.
Yeah, he knew it was going to go downhill fast.
He wisely gave up on that. For sure.
Hey, did you keep track of Google's I/O stuff? Did you follow anything that they were doing at the time at all?
Unfortunately, as you've seen in our inability to connect this week, I've been very busy.
Yes, you have. I missed one of your calls, and when I called back, I never heard back from you, and I was like, the man is definitely busy.
Yes, I have been quite busy. It's been a great couple of weeks for Flip2, but that's made it a very busy time period for myself. Let's see, Robert Cole, can you speak now?
I can speak. I don't know if you
We
can
can
hear me.
hear you.
Andy, you don't even know. I was on. Okay, this is the worst broadcast we have ever done. I came on a minute before. Everything's good. It says on air. Lauren's little picture's there, but he's not on the screen. It's just me.
And meanwhile, I'm
And
live and broadcasting.
And I wind up, and mine says on air, like it's broadcasting. So I'm sitting there going, technically trying to reach Lauren, calling him, sending emails, and giving a running description of that process, which is very, very fascinating.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So then Lauren was doing stuff. Then I was going to show a screen, and Lauren can see the video, but I guess Webinar Jam doesn't like to show audio when you share your screen.
I think it has to be a source.
I think anyone who can show audio is pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive. Yes, that's true. If you show audio, you got some talent.
Exactly. Yeah. So
hey, one little fun stat that I just want to bring up from the Google I/O thing. I mean, there's lots of them, but the Google Assistant, they said that it was in 1 billion with a B units now. Okay, and that it was in towards 80 countries in 30 languages.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty massive distribution. I mean, yeah, of course, obviously.
There you go.
Place,
right there.
That's pretty scary that it's there that much. You can imagine the data that they're sucking in.
It is amazing.
Can you imagine how many? It's 1 billion people's privacy that they're violating.
Oh, absolutely. And I have all of my stuff turned on, so Google has all of it just to see what they. I mean, I'm a guinea pig myself just to see what they have, and it is insane. Like, I think maybe 3 Mondays in a row in the afternoon, I went with my wife to work, right? Because we're going to go to dinner afterwards. That's fine. Or she's dropping in for a short stint. The 3rd or 4th week, it said automatically popping up driving directions there. And you're kind of like, oh, that's really either really convenient or really horrifying. I'm not sure. It's somewhere. It's that whole creepy line thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and that's the thing. Amazon has recently started getting in some hot water over the fact that in the Amazon Echo Dot Kids, which is meant to interact with children, and I guess in the Amazon Echo you can delete the voice recordings, which, by the way, it records your voice as you're interacting with it. So you can delete the voice recordings, but what they didn't tell you
signals.
that they also have a text. No, they have a full text transcript of that voice recording, which you can't delete.
A court stenographer in your own Echo. Wow.
Yeah. And it's incredibly difficult. You actually have to have your profile deleted, which requires calling Amazon.
Oh, wow.
In order to get the text version of your interactions with your Echo deleted.
And when your profile's deleted, does that delete all of your preferences, all your past purchase history and everything like that, right? Wow. Yeah.
So you remember how you all were making fun of me for making a big deal about how these companies have no concern about your privacy?
I just remember fondly making fun of you. I don't remember all the details.
You guys were saying I needed like tinfoil hats and stuff because of how crazy I was. But I'm telling you, man, I told you that not only recording it and not only logging that recording, and yes, they're fooling you into thinking you can get that deleted, but oops, in the background, they also had the text version of that interaction stored in multiple locations. So this was the other part of the article is Amazon struggling to make it easy to delete because it ends up getting pushed out to multiple locations. So, generally when you take data and copy it across multiple databases, does that mean you're just storing it, or does that mean you're doing something with it?
I'm sure it's just purely accidental, Ed.
I think that they're just holding onto it for our well-being, and that we know we'd like to know what we said in the future, coming back to it like nostalgia, and there's no ill will.
Just like Facebook comes back and goes, hey, 10 years ago, remember this?
Yeah, send a picture where you look like 10 years ago beside the picture you said that we look at right now, so we can do a little facial recognition variation. Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah. Actually, it's the other thing that's a little scary. I was speaking to somebody at the conference about a woman who was saying that, she is convinced that her phone is listening to her to go serve ads because she said that she
totally is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, not when you know about it, right? That it's just sitting there going, because she said she was speaking to somebody about Cartagena, about what, and had never literally mentioned this before, and all of a sudden started getting some
I can
contextual...
answer the question on if it was happening or not. Was it an Android phone or an iOS phone?
It was an Android phone.
Then the answer is yes, absolutely. Her phone is listening to her to serve ads.
And if I said it was an Apple phone, you would say absolutely not. That couldn't possibly happen. Apple would never do that.
Well, actually, Apple wouldn't do that. No, Apple is anti-ad network.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Google is an ad network.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when I was doing the presentation,
and it may not be her phone, and it may not be Android that's doing it, but because Android allows unfettered access to the controls of the device,
it could be something.
It could be an app,
and that's what I asked her. I said, and she goes, "I have no idea." And I go, "That's partly your problem, but that's partly." Google's problem, which may not be considered a problem. It may be more of a feature. I'm not exactly sure.
I'm still constantly surprised. Like when I was doing a presentation for Blackstone, and I was told the room was with advanced participants, people that were knowledgeable in the space. I really struggled with the idea whether I would take some of my ringers of things that I did where normally I make a group go over and take their iPhones out and go through the settings, go to location base to see the iPhone tracking your location and time duration at those points. Then I play a video about how Google tracks everything, whether you shut your phone off and in airplane mode and have no SIM card in it. There was a great thing that New York Times did about how it tracked everything and actually had more data when you put it on an airplane. So anyway, I do this, and I was just battling with it. Maybe that's too simplistic. I'm kind of going over something they already know. No, people still are in awe of how much their phone is aware of what they're doing. No matter how knowledgeable they are. I mean, and this is no discredit to the people I was talking to in the room. Just people forget how much your phone keeps track of stuff.
Right.
Barometric pressure, altitude, location, time duration. It keeps track of a whole mess of stuff.
Yeah.
What it's used by it is a different story. Google obviously more so than Apple, but Apple still uses it.
The location stuff's the amazing thing, though, because if they do that and if it's evaluated properly, how long do you stay at certain places like overnight? That's probably your home, right? Mm-hmm. Where do you go to work? Where do you eat? All of that stuff. If those location services are on, it is.
Well, you volunteer information. You put in your home address,
absolutely,
work address, and it just adds to the list of what it's more and more aware of you want. And I bring up about China, about what they're doing with the social scoring now. I showed them a video about what WeChat is, and now with the social scoring, where you can't control the social score you have, and it keeps track of whether you go to a liquor store or whether you have friends that are undesirable or whether you're in areas of cities that are.
Oh, I'm so screwed with you guys. Damn it. I knew this show was a bad idea.
I mean, the irony of all that is out of all of us.
That's right. Yeah, you're going to try to you can't come into the country. I'm sorry. You're associated with that show. You're not coming into the country.
Exactly.
Here's the thing too, is like, and I don't know if you guys find this, but I instantly now go to so my phone was buggy in the office the last couple of days, and my mind instantly went to one of two places. One, I somehow picked up a piece of spyware on my phone because of how it was being buggy, or two, someone's spoofing a cell tower in the area. In my mind, those were the only two available options. It wasn't until I went outside and walked around and saw a crane at the nearest cell tower with like wires hanging out of the cell tower that I just went, or three, the cell tower's down. But my mind, like I'm running scans on my device. I'm making sure my device hasn't been somehow jailbroken, because on iOS, in order for malware to actually do something meaningful, your iOS needs to be jailbroken, and you can detect that very easily. So that, but I'm like, I spent probably an hour yesterday, like looking through what I just thought was, oh man, I must have picked this up somewhere. I don't know how I did this. I've been traveling a lot. Maybe I, somehow missed this happening. And then it's like, oh, or it's just a basic technical issue with the cell tower.
Right.
To me, that feels so wrong that now that's my default is, something got in and is now, acting as spyware. And the only reason I say that is like, it's because it's everywhere now. Like legitimate apps are nothing more than spyware, and no one seems to be like going nuts over that. We've quickly gotten to that.
No, we pushed the threshold so far out that that's the new norm in some ways.
But okay, there was a guy on stage who I have not heard of this before. He was talking about the way his daughter now shops. She no longer uses Google, right? She uses Instagram. And you go, what? But here's what she does. The targeting is so good on Instagram, she will go search for whatever, I don't know, this is a little black dress or something like that, right? And then she waits for the ads to start getting fed to her, and she buys off of the ads, which is like insane. But he said that's what she does. She doesn't do that anymore. And she looks at it and she goes, the targeting is so good. And it was kind of like, well, what's the situation with the quality of those ads being served? No, she's found they're very good, because these guys are advanced at their targeting. They're picking up these signals. They are very focused on producing high quality, highly relevant advertising. And so she's getting a better search experience. This guy's saying she's getting a better search experience doing that on Instagram.
Well, I mean,
going to Google.
The ad targeting on Facebook and Instagram is far easier to navigate than it is on Google. There's no question. Right. I mean, you guys build ads, that. Like, audience targeting is super easy on and actually Pinterest too. Pinterest is really easy.
Right. Pinterest has gotten really good about in that sense. Mr. Tim, how are you today, sir?
I am doing very well, gents.
Tim Kita.
Howdy.
Actually,
now the show's finally legitimate.
There is a bit of credibility. I will say something I've discovered. Two things I've discovered recently that are new to me in the sense of the marketing space. One is with Instagram, I'm doing more event targeting, storytelling event targeting in Instagram. And it's triggering great traffic because it's like you're sitting waiting, like the policeman behind the street side billboard. You're waiting for the speeder to go by, where if you put the ads out there way ahead of the time cycle. I mean, this is early discovery time zone stuff that you're putting this stuff out to. But if you keep very targeted ads about particular events, like right now, Global Gay Pride in New York is a big thing right now coming up. And we set out like little storylines in Instagram weeks ago, well earlier than the curve of discovery that would normally happen with events in normal marketing. And those things were like popping like hotcakes because they were coming up out of the storylines in Instagram as people were searching related to the event itself. And the other thing I found out that is I yet to be able to quantify this yet is I've never been a huge fan of Twitter advertisement. It just seems like you're throwing money into a hole. But
there's a reason for that.
You get tons of retweets.
Yeah, unless you're sitting on top of something and you're just shoving tons of volume into that space at that time just to inundate it. That's about the only value proposition I have with Twitter. But I added, I think I mentioned this at one of the earlier shows a couple weeks ago. I added music selection, music genre, and then music artists. And it just triggered multiplicities of conversions where people were just, Jimmy Buffett, man, boom. I mean, I just yanked a tremendous amount of great engagement because I identified first, music types.
So and then you were doing the advertising for Margaritaville.
Exactly.
Or maybe taking business from Margaritaville. It could be either way.
Sure. Absolutely.
But when you trigger that, man, oh man, it's like people gravitate to that. And I don't know what to do with that yet because I don't know how to quantify what creates that environment yet.
Oh,
it's just
no. We're in the hotel industry. We know what the answer is. Put a book now button on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes. That's the wise one. You're absolutely right.
You found a way to get people to pay attention? Book now.
That's discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm using it for destination stuff.
Book now.
Obviously photo based,
Book now.
I laugh at people when their Facebook posts are all about their discounted rate and book now while they're still. It's like, guys, you do not get this platform. The fact that you're
actually, that gave me an email marketing idea. I think I'm just going to send out order forms to every hotel in my database.
Yeah.
And when someone comes back and answers like, I didn't ask for this. Yeah, but I had your email.
Right, exactly.
What makes you think I would sign this order form? I don't know. I was just copying your marketing.
Yeah, exactly. You seem to think it works for you.
Right. It's an experiment. I'm testing to see if it works for selling to you.
Right,
Who was picking on Stuart, who's not here, so we get to pick on him anyway? Who was picking on Stuart about his method of dating? Was it you, Ed, that brought up the idea that he hit everybody just asking if he wanted to have sex?
Yeah, that's what it's one of my go-tos when I talk about the problems in hotel marketing is hotel marketing.
Dating.
Yeah, it's akin to just walking up to every stranger in a bar and asking them to sleep with you. In fact, it's the same call to action.
It is exactly.
So here's the thing. If you do that, a small percentage of people will say yes.
Right.
But
well,
and if you only measure that as success, which is how our industry works, then you would say that is an effective strategy. But the problem is everyone who said no to you, you've permanently damaged how they feel about you.
Right.
And there's no going back.
Or if they say no, they come back and then it's let's get married, right? Because it's join the loyalty program. And
Right. But there's a great, Ed, you're raising a great point. There's a terrific book I like a lot that I read about a year ago, and I've been quoting it every chance I get because it speaks to what you're talking about. It's
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yes, absolutely. Because if you do it right, it's magical. No. But there was a book written by a professional poker player called Thinking in Bets. And it's this whole idea about the mistake that a lot of people make in business is we focus too much on outcomes as opposed to did you make good decisions, right? If you're a professional gambler, you're a professional poker player, and I'll bring this back to hospitality in 1 second. But if you're a professional poker player, professional gambler, sometimes you lose just because you had bad luck. You did everything correctly, and the person you're playing against got the one card at the end of the hand that could actually win the hand for them. And if you judge only on the results, you're not looking at your process of how you got there to say, did we do the right things? And if we did the right things and it didn't work, okay, was that just bad luck versus did we do the wrong things? Like, but now in every single thing we do, and because, hey, sometimes we win that hand, we think we're in good shape, right? And it's a really interesting way to think about it that I think many people do not do enough of are we making good decisions or are we generating good results? Because those don't necessarily always go hand in hand. But over the long term, if you make good decisions, you will achieve good results.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why the professional gamblers killing it on Jeopardy, he broke the game.
Correct.
Right?
He broke the game. He's playing a different game and he's doing it. He's playing the optimal game.
Right. Yeah.
He's without
and his earnings are double Ken Jennings, who was the previous guy. I mean, he's raking in $70,000 a show instead of 36 or something like that, because he looked at it and went, from a professional gambler's thing and go, no, I'm going to take all the probability of taking all the big number stuff off the board, so I get ahead and nobody can catch me.
Well, and one of the things that I found really interesting about this book, and the reason I quote it so much, is because of the thing I just shared, and because of the other thing, because the other thing in it was, people often talk about, it's like playing chess, or sometimes if they're really sophisticated, it's like we're playing three-dimensional chess.
Yes.
And, the writer pointed out quite rightly that chess has nothing to do with how we make decisions in the real world. Right. In chess, you are always dealing with perfect information. In chess, you can always see the entire board. In chess, there are essentially a finite number of outcomes, and admittedly, immense number of outcomes, but there's a finite number, right? Whereas if you're, playing poker, as this person was specifically, you're dealing with imperfect information. You're dealing with, having to make decisions given certain constraints of the things you don't know. And there are things you do not control. And I thought it was a really interesting metaphor in terms of how we actually make decisions. And there's actually scientific research that backs this up. Ed, if I said to you right now, would you, do you want to do this one thing, yes or no? Right? Mm-hmm. That may be a tough decision. If I said, okay, would you bet me $100 that it's the right thing to do? You might go, oh, maybe. If I said, would you bet me $10,000 that it's the right thing to do? You might go, hold up. And this whole thing of, okay, when I'm faced with a tough decision, one of the things I've been doing ever since I read this book is, how much would I bet on it? If I would bet $5, because it forces you to take a moment and stop and think and say, okay, how confident am I in this thing that we are really doing right now? Am I willing to bet $10? Okay, fine. I bet $10 on almost anything. Right? If I'm willing to bet $10,000, right? But that doesn't make it a good decision. By the way,
there are programs you can get into to adjust that behavior.
I find the pills help. That's a joke. I'm actually not much of a gambler. I was in Vegas last weekend. I won precisely $28. I started with $20 and I walked away from the table with 48. I'm not a gambler by any stretch. Yeah. But if it's, would you bet $10,000 on this? Would you bet $100,000 on this? At that point you start to go, okay, you're real confident you're making a good decision. If you're saying I wouldn't bet $10 on it, you're pretty confident that is a terrible decision, right?
Right.
Just an interesting.
It's an interesting perspective to add to decision making because it's always the risk aversion kind of stuff. But even from a hotel perspective, as to when you're doing these things, we're put in front of that when it comes to our client relationships. How much are we really putting our credibility on the line by saying the success opportunities that we're projecting?
All chips in on everything, right?
Yes, all in. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, true story. And I'm so sorry for cutting you off.
No, go ahead.
In one specific case, and it was only one, I had a client who would not do something that I thought was right for them. So I told them, here's the deal. I will pay for it. I'll pay for it for 3 months. And if it doesn't work, we'll kill it. And you don't owe me a dime.
I mean, I've done it where in every place I've spoken to, I give the handout, give me your gnarliest revenue problem in the future. And if I can't solve it in the 5 minutes we have, I'll give you 3 more hours. And nobody's knocked me off the hill yet.
There you go.
Because usually what happens when I throw that in is that you have a lot of smart people in the room. If you got good engagement with the room, you usually are just a participant in the conversation. Right. You don't even really create the solution. The room creates the solution.
Right.
And that's also because Lauren tells all the potential clients that he charges only $1,700 an hour. So that's a huge value out of that win.
Discount rate.
Yeah. The other part he doesn't tell them is that he doesn't bill in partial hours. So that 5 minutes is still 1 hour. Regardless.
Exactly. We don't round down. We round up.
It's like the bench charge at the electronics store.
Yeah.
The person I want to talk is speaking of gambling is Jeff Ma, right? Who was the guy that was the subject of 21 at the MIT blackjack team. He's now I think the CTO of Duetto, right? So, or maybe not CTO, but he's the
he's the head. He's the head think tank. Yeah.
He's the head analyst or whatever, which is interesting because Marco also left Duetto recently. I saw.
Did he really? I didn't know.
He did. Yeah.
He put out a whole.
Yeah. He's working on something new. Yeah. Yep. So
Duetto is a weird mix right now. They got some great brain power, but then they stumble over themselves and they bleed money. It's like I don't understand them sometimes. They have some great product to market. They got some great methodology. There's some great people working for them. And then all of a sudden they do something like, why'd you do that? Just weird things like that.
They've had very, very patient investors for a long time. It took them a long time to get to their 1,000th property, much longer than they anticipated. And they've hung in there, and they are doubling down.
Hey, can we bash companies today? Can I bash Sabre?
You can do whatever you want. Yeah.
You've watched this show, right?
Right.
Exactly.
I am just so frustrated with them right now. It's like they think they're too big to fail or something. But I've had projects that are over 45 days old where I still have booking engines that pop up saying book before April 30th, and I can't get anybody to answer. I'm like,
okay, I have the response to this. The problem isn't Sabre. The problem is Tammy Peter. Not specifically, but Wyndham is Wyndham
consuming the bandwidth.
Is consuming all of their bandwidth. They have to keep Wyndham happy, and Wyndham sucks the oxygen out of them. Not that Tammy's doing that intentionally, or I'm just putting Tammy as the face of Wyndham because she really does run the whole thing. I think she really is the brain trust and really pretty much.
Well, look at the time. It's time for me to go, fellas. It's been great.
Everything. Well, no, haven't we all agreed?
I'm even uncomfortable with this conversation.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate that.
Tammy's the best thing about Wyndham. I mean, that's
again. You all know you can mute Robert at any time, right?
That's right. Tim owns shares. Anyway, no, but Wyndham, that is a significant problem for Synixis and Sabre, and I understand they have a number of clients who are not pleased with that and looking aggressively for alternatives.
So, and I'm going to tread very lightly here. I'm going to tread incredibly lightly here because I don't like to go, tromping through.
I wouldn't try at all on this if I were you.
Yeah. The only thing I'm going to ask is that true or is that a narrative? What
That's
evidence?
how Sabre works. No, I'll tell you.
Well,
the inside baseball of Sabre, the way all money is allocated, is basically on a 1-to-N scale, right? Of the big issues go first. All product planning is related to that, right? And there's a line, right? If it doesn't matter if you've got 200 million, 1 million, $5, who's getting it first? Here are the projects, and a line is drawn through the budgeting process, and you go, okay, you're getting 7. Down to 1 through 7, that's what you get, and 8 through 12 may be really important and outrageously number 1-to-N list things for those partners. But that's how it works.
So the only thing I'll kind of poke at is your comment about people wanting replacement to leave in droves. The same is true for every other major CRS. It's always been the case. Like historically,
true.
As long as I've been active in this industry, TravelClick's customers are all upset and want to go somewhere. Synixis's customers are all upset and want to go somewhere. Pegasus's customers are all upset and want to go somewhere. And you know what they end up doing? They just go boop, boop.
No.
Yeah.
Boop. Yeah. Well,
actually,
Amadeus now, not to the TravelClick, but the IHG platform. And again, IHG was sucking all the air out of out of Amadeus, right? But that seems to be launching. I think now those guys are, I think all those Sabre clients have targets on them now for every other CRS. So the same way that Pegasus clients did. Well, no, but Pegasus for
every
a while.
I'm sorry. For CRSs north of 5,000 installs, there's 5.
A handful. Yeah.
Right. So, and they all trade customers on a annual basis. But if your business need is that level of architecture, you have 5 choices, 4 really, to go through, and they all have their challenges. CRS has become the new PMS of our space, where it's if you're going above the fold on I want to make sure I'm talking to someone who will be there when I'm up for renewal, you only have a few choices, or you're going startup, which I don't want to poo-poo on that. They've all been startups at some point, right. But I think
ironically, high tech is going to be interesting this year. I think there's going to be some interesting convergence stuff going on in high tech. I'm seeing a lot of players that normally haven't been at high tech announcing that they're going to be at high tech. And these are, to your credit, Ed, about the better in business stuff that's not been in hospitality wanting to show up. I've heard a lot more about the fact that Salesforce is going to make a presence where they hadn't before as much. I think they showed up once that I remember, but it was a small little token booth, I think. But I think that it's going to be an interesting where the tech stack stuff, and I think this is driven a little bit by Oyo's presence. Oyo's only, again, doing leaps and bounds stuff. I mean, I'm sorry I don't have the article for it, but somebody else just joined in on the Oyo bandwagon and dropped some serious coin on them. That they joined up in Europe somewhere. Dang it, now I got to go find the article. But somebody joined forces with Oyo in Europe.
Oh, well, Oyo went and bought a vacation rental business in Europe, I believe. Yeah.
So, and the big proposition that Oyo has that I've always felt the strongest suit is that they own the tech stack that they have. They built their own tech stack. So they walk in and there's
so your advice is that all these brands should build their own tech stack?
What's that?
Your advice is that the brand should start building their own tech stack?
They're trying. They never do well at it.
They should develop their own data streams, control their data streams, and then have things that bolt onto it, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, because do you think that's
that'll be a start?
Well?
What?
The investment it takes to do that stuff well is unjustifiable at the scale that any of these single businesses are.
But I will also say Marriott has one sitting on the shelf that was a pretty dang good thing until they put it on the shelf, and that was Valkyrie. You know,
Valhalla.
Sorry,
I have to agree with you because a lot of the bubble gum holding Valhalla together was technology I built.
Valhalla, sorry.
But Valhalla. The problem was Valhalla. Marriott determined would not scale enough.
And they were correct,
and they probably were right. So that was the problem. My understanding is Marcia is busting at the seams now with the Starwood stuff. Though it is at its it's running at capacity. It's running hot. So they may need to do something.
Which brings us full circle to Ed's point. I was actually at a Starwood property the other day, and they were talking about how much they hated the new systems they were using. But it's exactly what Ed was saying before. Most people you talk to in the industry, how often do you run into people who talk about how much they love their CRS or love their tech stack?
Actually, right? I can tell you,
you find at best a certain amount of neutrality, and then everybody, and then there's a small vocal contingent who can't stand
some
what
of
they have.
Some of the travel tripper and some of the SHR guys, I would say.
So Fuel Travel and Flip2 actually did a study on how people felt about the solutions that were available to them. And we didn't just hit up the hoteliers. We also asked the vendors how they felt they were doing to see if there was any...
I remember that, actually. That was a good piece.
Yeah. And yes, the answer is no one's happy with the core technology stacks being provided to them.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Easy enough. And... what's interesting is it's always for a different reason, but every technology has its challenges, right? I mean, and that's the nature of the beast. However, the answer is not build your own. And I can point to endless amount of brands that are, have gigantic holes in their business because of their technology stack. And you see kind of what's happened. Like I think Wyndham has become more nimble since moving off of their what was originally 7 CRSs that's whittled down to 3 or 4, I believe, before they finally did the migration to the Sabre platform. But that doesn't mean it was perfect.
Yeah.
So I was hoping Tim would chime in.
Nope.
Nope. Anything to do with Wyndham and/or their tech stack is, off limits.
And again, to get the topic back to Tammy, the compliments of Tammy's performance in managing that god-awful migration of all those brands, Tammy might not say that it went really smooth perspective. Maybe there were some bumps and it didn't go as well as she would, but boy, everybody else in the ecosystem was like, she's awesome.
Tammy is really the most experienced person in the world on migrating hotels to a CRS platform.
At the volume,
she's certainly among them. Though the only reason I will say this was because I happened to be in the room at the Hotel Data Conference last year, where Tammy mentioned this specifically. was, Wyndham was very fortunate to have a really good team working on this. They had a bunch of folks who had a lot of experience, not just Tammy, but people who have been there for a while or come from other parts of the industry and the like. And I mean, you've seen news stories like what Marriott's going through with Starwood and bringing them on to Marsha and things along those lines. And I think Wyndham as an organization can be proud of the fact that you haven't heard a lot of those stories about about people having significant challenges, whether it was with, the migration that they did overall to Sabre, or whether it was just a couple weeks back when they integrated La Quinta and brought on a 900 hotel chain, chain, and again, happily, I don't think you've seen any news stories or any, talk of people saying, hey, this has been a real disaster or anything along those lines by any stretch of the imagination. So I think Wyndham as the team should be commended for that.
Yeah.
One of two things is happening. It's not just Tammy and the team that Tammy assembled as a leader. Could be
Tammy is the Nick Fury of an impressive team.
I like that. Yeah, Tammy
I'm sure.
Fury.
Be sure to tell her I compared her to Nick Fury, and then tell her who Nick Fury is.
Oh my gosh, she couldn't live in a house with me and not know who Nick Fury is. If there's two things my wife knows about secondhand, it is comic books. The Avengers generally, comic books generally, and the Avengers specifically. And guitars. She knows a lot more about guitars than she first knew. 27 years ago.
Probably more than she wanted to know.
Or there's alternative
part,
B.
yeah.
There is alternative B, being New Jersey based, that just any witnesses disappear quickly.
You can't prove that, Congressman.
No, yeah. Tammy doesn't know where the bodies are buried, but Tim spends a lot of time with the shovels. No.
All I'm saying is that's a real nice CRS you have there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Leave the gun, take the cannoli.
Exactly. It's funny. I was sitting next to a flight attendant. This is a complete digression, but I was sitting next to a flight attendant flying back from Chicago the other day, and we just got to talking about traveling regularly and things along those lines. And she was talking about cities that you fly from, and I'm not going to name the city, but you're flying to, say, Cancun, or you're flying to some resort area, and having somebody either flag the flight attendant down at the beginning of the flight, or come back to the galley early in the flight or whatever, and try to slip her a 20 and be like, and say, make sure you don't forget about me during the flight.
Vegas.
So Dallas. People from Dallas.
Yeah.
I just thought it was the funniest thing. I'd never heard that before, and I was laughing heartily as she was describing, certain types of customers. And she said it's mostly specific routes. Like, it's not a thing you see generally, but
But now there have been so many blog posts on the Insider's Guide to Vegas to bribe the desk clerks.
Sure.
Give them a 50. And in a lot of these places, it's like, they'll turn it down. They're like, no, insist and do this. It's just not. It's not great.
Right.
Because again, in the good old days, yeah, but now, no, not so much. So, depending on which of the 42 desk clerks at the long line at the front desk, you get randomized.
Right.
You want to look.
They don't have a lot of control over that.
eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I kind of feel like we've hit a weird point now. Like, how do we go back to seriousness after what has been a completely ridiculous line of talk?
I've got two things. I mentioned I was speaking at the Hotels Beds conference, and there was a little debate about rate parity, perhaps. And let me tell you, I can say Hotel Beds is dealing with that in a very, very proactive manner. And I certainly told the 500 people in attendance when I had Accor and Posadas on the stage with somebody from Hotel Beds, and said, look, they aren't going to say it, but I am. here's the problem. If there's one bad actor that they're going to go find out who's doing this wrong. And if it comes through as hotel beds, it doesn't come through necessarily as who the ultimate, source was. But I said the only way they can fix this is yanking at the end of the line and seeing which bell rings. And if they say, make that stop, and it doesn't stop, they cut off hotel bed, and you guys are going to be screwed. So this is serious. These guys are going to be amping up those efforts, and at least in the Accor and Posada's world, they're like, no, we are getting very serious about this, and stop messing around because there will be ramifications. So
what did hotel beds say? 'Cause I haven't heard where they're being proactive here.
Oh no, they are internally with their folks. They are. Now,
is this in the way Philip Morris is proactive on?
No. No. These guys are pretty smart. I mean, they have. Actually, I think the sources of who's sourcing business through hotel beds and the volumes would surprise a lot of people. And I can't go into more detail than that, but they are a large source of inventory.
Yes.
Now that they have GTA and Tarico and all of that stuff,
Right.
and they know if they don't clean this stuff up, they are.
But how much is that them just saying that and doing some token moves so they can kind of say, hey, we made an effort here? Because I got to tell you, Tarico for years was saying that they would do stuff about it. But
Tarico was always BS. They didn't care. That was their business.
Right.
Model.
And so forgive me for looking at this as, is this the same way TripAdvisor says that their ranking on hotels on TripAdvisor is serving
retail generally available sort of stuff? I think they are legitimately looking at this and reining it in. For closed groups, it's carte blanche, folks. So if that's going to be the whole thing, because
so we're just not going to screw you publicly.
Oh no, but that's the only
privately,
thing.
It's still going to happen.
Because
I don't believe it or not, I don't have a problem with what they do with closed groups. What I do have a problem with is how they define closed groups.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anyone with a neck is not a closed group.
Right. No, I realize that.
But I mean seriously.
Scarves, then yes, they are.
But if you have, if you have a legitimate closed group, I don't have a problem with it. But it's it's how they define closed groups that I think we've got some real problems with.
Okay, so if you're a member of an airline loyalty program, right, and you would like to buy a hotel with points, sort of thing, is that a closed group?
Not anymore. I mean, my
points. You're only going to get it a certain way, probably.
My favorite statistic about loyalty programs.
Yeah.
My favorite loyalty program, my favorite statistic about loyalty programs is that in the United States, we're a population of about 300 million, and there are roughly 3 billion loyalty memberships in the United States, or roughly 10 for every man, woman, and child. So they're not the closedest groups that they once were.
What is that really? 75 for every adult? Then
exactly. Yeah. It's absurd.
But when somebody has a ton of United points, guess what? They are not converting them to Bonvoy points because the exchange sucks, right? It's stupid,
god awful.
But they can go to other sources that go and wind up buying those, those rooms.
And so you're telling me hotel beds is ensuring that's the only way that rate is going out there. They're not
they aren't ensuring it. They're just providing the marketplace where people can access that stuff at discount.
Right, and then it's on the airline to actually enforce it and do it right, but they don't. No. This is the thing.
The airline is going to go search for the lowest cost source of that inventory, right? And that's it. They're going to go or Capital One,
and they're going to say they paid with points for this. Oh, really? Yeah, they applied $1 worth of points to this transaction.
Yeah, they did. They applied whatever dollar worth of points, and then they bought the stuff for cash. Cash goes to the hotel company.
So is that really a closed group?
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. By every single rate parity agreement I have been exposed
That I
to, which
agree
is
with.
probably
Like,
north of
ethically-
200.
Ethically,
Yeah.
what Tim's talking about is ethically is all
That's
they're doing
ethically
is
completely. There's no problem with that. I have absolutely no problem with that ethically at all. You're converting points. They're buying it on an open marketplace, right? That stuff is being provided at a net rate by the hoteliers. Now, the hoteliers might say, "Hey, I didn't know my stuff was going out to do that," and it's like, okay, that's a good point, but you're working with a very large bed bank that works with a large number of groups. And right now, when business is at a peak, right, they aren't going to like it. Let me tell you. Oh, and one of the questions we asked, interestingly, all these guys who were the travel sellers, right, but we asked them when they thought the next downturn was going to be. I would say 80% thought within the next 2 years, which I think was pretty interesting. I think the hoteliers are much more optimistic than this group, right? And just wait till that downturn happens. Those hotels are going to turn right to them and go, "Send more, please. How can I get more?" Right?
I'm actually surprised they're that bullish. I'm a little more bearish than that, frankly.
Oh, actually,
I think the odds again.
50 some were within a year.
Yeah,
50 some, and then there was another 30 within 2 years.
But
I mean,
I still think
going back to our gambling thing from before, I would
Right.
I would certainly lay money that it's within 2 years easily, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if it's the next 12 to 18 months.
right,
I
or
think-
it's already started in certain.
Or it already started in certain markets. Exactly.
Already in New York, I can tell you from just
Yeah.
first experiences with it, you're seeing stuff now in market. You're seeing some peaks and valleys, and ironically, and we're trying to dissect some of this a little bit. Our actual traffic and demand and conversions are up. We can't sustain ADR. The rates of market right now are lower, and we can't push ADR up, even though demand seems to be still growing. We can't push ADR.
Well, that means your source of demand must be changing,
Right.
And the pre-book
or more inventory in market that's holding.
New York, that's a huge problem for them. Is the amount of inventory that's come on market is insane.
You also have and again with the Airbnb situation, that dynamic inventory push in there, and that's early book, and that depresses the initial rate in offerings into market at time, and you're fighting that, and it's just hard to push the needle. Yeah, and you're sitting there going, "Good gosh, we got great demand, we got great conversion." But we can't push the rate. We can't get the rate we can't move that needle,
Right.
So there's cause and effects going on in the market right now.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, actually, I want me to go through just some. We had presentations from Google, from Amazon, McKinsey.
What was the event, Robert? I missed what you said when you started.
Oh, it's the Hotel Beds Market Hub. It's the North American Market Hub conference, which I don't think they hold every year. Maybe it's every other year or something like that. But there were some pretty interesting things actually. On the rate parity side, even the guy, Sam Turner, who's kind of the head of the vertical, he's kind of the face of this. It was like the
So what is he, the head or the face?
He's both. He's his head is on his face is on his head, Ed. But
sorry,
he basically said 50. Basically, on their stats, 52% of travelers visit the hotel website as a normal course of booking, right? And 72% are visiting price comparison sites, right? So what's happening is the look to book rate they looked at is about 4x, right? Just in the last couple of years, it is just skyrocketing with everybody's. And I think it was the Book Direct campaigns, right? So the Book Direct come to our website. So it kind of worked. But if you have to go, stop clicking around to go to Hilton, all these guys are going, well, I guess I better go to Marriott too. And I guess I better go to Hyatt, and I better go to this. And all of a sudden, and then they wind up at a price comparison site anyway to go, to try to sort it out.
Yeah, but that brings us full circle to what Ed was talking about when I showed up, and I know I walked in a little late on that conversation, so I'm not going to beat this to death because you may have done it to death before I walked in. But that's one of the reasons why you have to work so hard to differentiate yourself, so it doesn't become a case of, okay, I'm the Marriott on one side of the street, I'm the Hilton on the other side of the street, I'm the Wyndham on the other corner. right? And now we're solely competing on, a one king non-smoking or a double non-smoking or something like that, right? And what rate are we compening at?
It's funny to go here.
Ourselves apart.
My 10 a.m. that made me late for this show was a owner of a marketing agency that has only been in travel for a year from a specialty perspective. So we were kind of talking about, some of the history of how we got here. And, it's very funny when you get to see an outside marketer's perspective on trying to consume the fact that, our product is, not at all could be considered a commodity in any measurable form. And yet our marketing
does its best to commoditize it
as
absolutely
as much as possible. Customer lifetime value is not focused on enough.
Right.
And I can attest to that. I can tell you, I have spoken to multiple major brands through different conversations where I've asked, how do you attribute customer lifetime value? What do you consider the customer lifetime value of a loyalty member versus what's the customer lifetime value of a newly acquired person through this?
Right.
I've never gotten an answer.
Right.
And I've gotten we'll go look to see how we do that. Yeah. And then I never get an answer. So if you want to know, part of the problem is there's no hospitality in our digital marketing. For some reason, we have completely lost sight of what matters to win and keep relationships.
Absolutely.
That I actually think, and
Look
again,
now.
Right, exactly. That is part of why there's always been this reliance on outside parties to drive demand. Because even before the internet, there were other types of outside parties driving demand. Because this industry has, for some reason, whether it's the intense focus on the hospitality culture, or I've never been able to put my finger on why this industry has never embraced we need to figure out how to truly acquire and keep our own customers as a core focus. It's always this year's big rock is we're going to try and keep more customers, but it never becomes just it's an everyday, every year, no matter what changes in the consumer landscape. Goal number 3 for our organization is to acquire and keep our own customers.
Right.
Yeah. Some groups, some smaller groups, I think did that. I think Joie de Vivre did it quite effectively prior to their acquisition, which I think maybe not so much anymore. But certainly in the Chip Conley years,
all the new benchmark hotels, you mean?
But I think actually Ed already said it before. Four Seasons, that was certainly the focus when I was
and the ones you actually can tell when you come across an org that is a key focus. Actually, some of Stewart's customers at Fuel, it's a focus of theirs, and my gosh, it you can see it in everything, because anything they try now just outperforms every industry benchmark, because fundamentally everything it's being done on has that core focus of acquire and keep.
Right. Yeah. I would argue.
Wolf. What is it? Great Wolf. The Wadi Park. Things like that.
Yeah. Great Wolf. Yep.
I would argue Leading did a very good job of it.
Huge focus on that.
Back in the day, I would agree.
During the Ted Tang era, I would say Leading did a very good job of that. And I want to be very clear: the Ted Tang era officially ended like 2 weeks ago. So for all I know, Shannon and her team will continue to do that. I'd be surprised if they didn't. But no, I mean, that was something I can speak to, I think, pretty comfortably. Their loyalty program was and is a paid loyalty program.
Absolutely.
So a lot of that was around, we need to make sure we're taking very good care of these customers and making sure they see a value from that.
Yeah. So and I'm definitely not saying there aren't examples of, but
they're not. By the way, I only worked there for 2 years of the Ted Tang era. So this isn't, a backhanded way of me saying we did this. This was Leading. I think this was something Ted, when he came in, was very clear about. its importance, and he was there for 10 years. So I think
right.
they went into that hard.
But I think there's just not enough focus in our industry of that being a key value. And
yes,
and again, it's systematic because of just how the business operates. You have 3 different entities inside of a single location, all with a different agenda that has some overlap in, caring about the same thing, but has a ton of stuff that each doesn't care about the other's goals and everything. But it is part of, the systemic, what we're always fighting. We're always fighting that, don't be a commodity. Don't give away everything to wholesalers. Like attempt to stand up and have your own ability to control your business.
Manage your channels wisely. You optimize each one for what they're good at.
Right. Well,
and know who you are as a company.
Now, I've said this on the show many, many times, so apologize for repeating myself, but
that's okay. No one wants this.
Well, actually, Ed, to be fair, you've said a very similar thing. So we'll say I'm quoting you today. But
I was quoting you.
So turtles all the way down. It's an Ouroboros, right?
Yes.
No, it's this idea of if you're trying to compete with the OTAs at the point of booking, you're fighting the wrong fight.
Yeah.
Right. You need to be talking to guests well before they get to that point, and that's a thing you can do well that the OTAs, frankly, don't do the best job of, nor should they. And you're going to pick up a lot of bookings that come direct because of that, because you're going to get folks who are going to make the decision earlier, and they already know you, right? So it's a huge difference that people need to focus on.
I think one of the simplest things.
Number 2 and 3 of my standard presentation.
I think one of the most consistent things I recommend to anybody that I work with or work for, or in any collaboration that I speak at, is when was the last time you booked a room at your own hotel? When was the last time you and followed through with things? Because I have yet, no matter how great a place it could be, even this trip I just had out of Phoenix, that there isn't breaks in the chain. There is always something that doesn't function the way it was intended, or done the way it was supposed to be done, or handled the way it was supposed to be handled. And it can be situational, whatever you want to call it. It's training, it's technology, it's process. There's always breaks to this. Some simplistic example was the place I went to, the Beaumont, which is a beautiful place, historic, wonderful place, all that great stuff. I have great things to say about it. Team and people I met over there, fantastic. But simple flaw, they recommend a driver service to pick you up at the airport, and you can charge it to your room. Unfortunately, the driving service didn't know how to do that, nor did the bellman, nor did the front desk. And it ended up you had to charge it on your own card anyway, where you couldn't apply it to the room because the driver's like, hey, I need to get paid. And it's like, well, I'm supposed to be able to charge it to my room. Ends up, eventually I found out that the driver was supposed to go to the front desk and get a voucher, and that voucher be reimbursed. But nobody in the chain when I was there knew that. And no detriment to the resort. The resort is still amazingly wonderful. But when you start with small hiccups like that, you get a critical eye. And then you notice 6 lights out in the lobby and spider webs in the ceiling of the dining room. And all of a sudden you look at things differently because you started wrong.
And spider webs is just part of the historic feel.
Well, it
was.
Right. It was. I mean, those light bulbs have been in existence for 80 years, so why not? So anyway,
but actually, they weren't light bulbs. They were actually just covers on a gas fixture, and it just someone forgot to light it.
By the same token, the historian that walked us around for the tour, fabulous man, and in the front desk team, helpful and cooperative, and the people I met on the team, they're great people.
Well, flaws are going to exist in every business. How you overcome it.
That's exactly right.
Through your people and caring and empowering your employees to help where it's needed. However, that does not mean you can just completely ignore everything. You do need balance so that you're not relying on an MVP employee to save every single guest who comes through because you have a completely flawed experience.
I also lean on something a GM who I respect a lot told me once upon a time. He said, rolls and coffee, right? Or bread and coffee, right? You go to a restaurant, What's the first encounter you have with the staff? They bring bread, they bring rolls. What's the last thing that happens? They bring you your coffee, right? People remember the first interaction, they remember the last interaction, and they remember the interaction that they remember you fixing an interaction in the middle or not fixing an interaction in right?
Right.
Oh, no, absolutely. I'll give you a great example.
But the interactions that just go the way they're supposed to, most people don't remember that if you got the bread right, if you got the coffee right.
I stayed at a leading hotel of the world, a Grand Palladium, new hotel, opened 6 months ago, in Playa Mujeres, just north of Cancun, right? The one thing I will remember, yes, resort is good, everything's fine, was I got off stage at 1:15 because it was running late. I had a pickup for my transfer at 1:30, and that resort doesn't have the best design in terms of layout of how people get from building to building. They have all these golf carts that run around, right?
Yeah.
So I made it from the convention center over the front desk. Said this, the guy who was the doorman goes, "Oh," he looked around and goes, "I'll take you." Right? Hopped into a golf cart, took me there, and then said, "And I'll wait for you," because I had to get from my room where my bag was, things like that, and it would have taken too long to. Can we send a bellman? Up to get it. Just all that. That's just too many moving parts. I'll wait for you. I'll do that, and then take you to the secondary registration place because I was in the adults only section of the resort. The guy, he didn't have to do that.
The full nude. He was in the full nude part.
It was that kind of conference.
No, but anyway, that out of the whole thing, I mean, they had great food. Everything's well done. Is that guy right?
Yeah.
He didn't have to do that. He could have gone. Yeah, I've called for a golf cart. One will be here soon.
He didn't do the
5 minutes.
Sucks to be you.
To have a guy drop me off at my room so I can run up and then look for another golf cart or figure out in very 86 degree, 83% humidity.
And this is where I think every hotel would benefit from having a person whose goal is solving problems. Oh, like that's it. That's all their job is. They don't belong to a single department. They're a problem solver. And the reason I think this is I think about my interactions with my enterprise clients. And, I listen for problems. I have a very large enterprise client, and I was on a call that had nothing to do with me. I was just there as a supporting role. And I heard a comment that floored me, which was 21% of their call center call volume is people calling to make sure that their reservation they just did online went through.
Right.
Yep.
And it wasn't said like there was anything wrong with it. It was just mentioned like, oh, we got to keep in mind 21% is this and this. And then I went to the chief person. I won't say their title because it's enough that you could figure out who they are. And I was like, hey, did I hear that 21% of your call center volume is people calling immediately after completing a reservation online? He goes, yeah. He's like, that may be a little low. It may be higher than that. And I was like, so do you know why that happens? And he's like, yeah, we're fairly certain. I said, can you explain to me why? And he explained it to me. And it's a technical issue with two different systems they use and the delay in producing a real confirmation. So they don't send out an immediate confirmation email. And I was like,
yeah, let's fix that.
Can I make a suggestion? Is okay, I know you can't give them a confirmation in the first confirmation email that could be instant that you can technically trigger. Can you maybe give them we've received your booking and it's processing, you will get a confirmation within X, but your booking is good.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, probably. And I said, so that would cut a big chunk out of your 21, possibly more % of your call volume. How much money do you think that would save you? And he's like, I would save us a ton of money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so how long have you known about this issue? And he's like, oh, the org's been known about it for years. And I'm like, oh my God. But if you had someone like me inside an org who belonged to no one, and was just purely there to solve problems, both technically, operationally,
given the time of day, by the way, given what time it's getting to be, and Ed, if they wanted to find someone like you to solve problems for,
that's a good point. Well, right behind Robert, you can see a problem solver.
Yeah,
is that Seth?
That's right. It's Seth. Hey, Seth.
Yeah. So, anyways, I mean, I continually try to think of like what is the way a hotel can fix things. And I think someone having a focus on problem solving, like,
Sure.
just fix these things, because it's a death of 1,000 paper cuts at a lot of these properties.
I'll tell you a recommendation that I make to agencies that ask my advice to help them with their client engagements. Why I get business from them? Why do people leave other agencies and want me to go fix their stuff? As I said, because you don't talk to them anymore, and you don't have an advocate for their perspective. Right. You're not training them to use your product. You're not keeping them informed as to the usabilities of your product. And you certainly don't have an advocate that goes into your system, to your point, Ed, as an unbiased outside entity and says, hey, what's wrong with this? Why is it that your client is being neutral or maybe even negative towards their engagements with you? And they don't like your answers, or they don't know what questions to ask, whatever. And so I keep telling these guys, is like, make a client advocate in your client relationship.
Right.
You know, have somebody speak to the client, say, here, I'm here to make sure that your voice is heard, that you're utilizing our product to its full potential. So let's drop the veneers. Let's talk about how we can be better for you. How much do you know about our system? How well is it doing? And you'd be surprised, rather than trying to find new clients, keep the ones you got.
Yeah, Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy.
And wait a second, Lauren. I thought you got all your clients because you couldn't answer their questions at conferences, and they all got free. Yeah.
And then they felt guilty and kept them on.
Hey, can I throw in?
Actually,
can I throw in one?
Before you throw in anything, I really do have to run. I know.
Okay,
I
Tim.
at noon,
if people want to find
you
today. Or 90% of the internet, where should they go?
All knowledge of the internet.
If you're interested in if you want to know most of the stuff on the internet, I suggest google.com. But if you want to know about Tim, Peter, and Associates, you can find us at timpeter.com. I'm also TC Peter on Twitter.
And what is that cool, super neat software that is super efficient on research and everything that you're doing? Your software thing.
solosegment.com.
Which
Thank
is
you very much for letting us get in a little plug there too.
Hey, sponsor of the Hospitality Digital Marketing.
It's actually now just the Hospitality Marketing Show.
Oh, Hospitality Marketing Show. Yeah. Oh, look at that! Oh, I didn't see the whiteout, and okay, good.
Whiteout digital right off of there, right?
Well, Tim, tell Tammy I said Happy Mother's Day.
Yes, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in your lives, and I hope you all have a great weekend. And unfortunately, I'm going to miss the next 2 weeks. I will be I'm moderating a panel at a conference next Friday, and I will be in Dublin, Ireland, the week after that for a little personal downtime. So
you're going to be drunk.
I'll be in Amsterdam.
So
at the Guinness,
on both Fridays, but the next 2 Fridays you will be drunk.
we can only hope.
You'll be in Ireland, and I'll be in Amsterdam. We'll be on the other side. We'll be in the similar time zones.
Fantastic. Well, very cool. Well, I will see you guys in 3 weeks' time. So sorry I'll miss
safe travels,
both, but see you all soon, and vaya con Dios, and happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. All right.
Thanks, Mr. Tim.
Right.
Bye, guys.
And actually, with that, since I'd like to eat lunch.
Yes, Mr. Ed, where can people find about the wonderful, mysterious world of Flip2?
Yes, go to flip.to, or you can find me on social media, Edward St. Ange.
Excellent. And Mr. Robert, Mr. Robert Cole, sir.
Robert K. Cole on social media or rockcheetah.com. And I was going to say Google Travel's mission statement. They published it here. I had never seen it anywhere else, but everybody's leaving, so that's okay.
I know. We're going to throw it to next week, because I want to get some details out on Google's move into the automotive industry and how that's going to change, because they're going to use Waze with Assistant now. And that means your car interaction is going to have a whole different perspective about where you're going to go and what you're going to do, because you can talk to your car a hell of a lot better now that they've connected some of these things together. So I want to
Android Auto is coming out. Yeah, they're updating Android Auto.
Which, Microsoft's got to go, damn, because they've been trying so hard to keep in the auto industry. I mean, they've been pushing hard.
They really tried hard. All they have is Ford.
I used the old Android Auto last weekend in Chicago, and it works pretty well, but you had to kind of keep pushing. Okay, I want to do the assistant. I want to play music. I want to hit directions, and they're going to integrate all that stuff and not be quite as siloed.
To a seamless conversation.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yep. For archives of this show, you can go to hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. Look for show number 196. Yeah.
For one more month. 1 month from today. So June. What is that going to be?
Ish.
June
Whatever it's
7th
gonna
or
be.
something. I can't remember. I thought it was June 7th or something like
Yeah,
that.
somewhere. I think it's the first June one.
June
Well, we are
7th, the 200th episode. I feel like we
Yeah.
got to work on something.
I know you keep on pushing. It's like I wish it would be. I think I'm going to still be in Europe. I got 2 shows to do while we're in Europe, and I am speaking in Amsterdam at the HSMI IEU conference. So got a little toss in there. I'm going to do a
See if
live
they want to
broadcast.
fly all of us out, and we can do a live from Amsterdam.
Yep, we will be. We will be. I'll throw that.
No.
together.
See if they want to fly all of us out.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, gentlemen, thank you so very much. For everyone that watched the show, you can do the playback as well. But we'll catch you next Friday, 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central, for show number 197. Till then, thank you all. You have a great rest of your day and great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.